Jen, I know you're going to. All right. Thanks. All right. I'm ready to go, sir, when you are, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I have my devices rolling, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, and good evening. It is Tuesday, September 28th, 2021. It is 5:30 p.m. This is the City of Morro Bay City Council meeting. This is being held via teleconference this evening. Pursuant to Executive Order number N08-21 issued by Governor Newsom on June 11th, 2021, this meeting will be conducted telephonically through Zoom and broadcast live on cable channel 20 and streamed on the city website. Please be advised that pursuant to the executive order and to ensure the health and safety of the public by limiting human contact that could spread the COVID-19 virus, the Veterans Hall will not be open for the meeting this evening. And when it comes to public comment, the information will be displayed upon the screen by our esteemed city clerk, Ms. Swanson. So we appreciate that. With that, I'll ask Dana, can we see if we have a quorum this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Addis?
Here.
Councilmember Barton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ford?
Here.
Councilmember Heller?
Here.
And Mayor Heading?
Present. Great. We do have a quorum. I will call the meeting to order and ask each of you listening and with us this evening in your own way, if I could ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now I'll ask if we could display our flag, and we will have our Pledge of Allegiance this evening. There we are. Thank you. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and again, welcome this evening. I'll ask our esteemed city attorney, Chris Neurmeyer, do we have a closed session report, sir, this evening?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor. No closed session items to report tonight.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. We'll go ahead and move to Mayor and Council Member reports. Let's go ahead start with Council Member Addis. Do you have any news for us this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to invite the community to a community organized event on October 2nd at 10 a.m. at the county courthouse. There will be a rally and a march in support of abortion care and reproductive health care. And again, it's a community organized event at the county courthouse at 10 a.m. on October 2nd. It's a peaceful event. The public is asked to come vaccinated, wearing masks, ready to social distance, but to come out in support of open access to abortion care and to reproductive health care.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Addis. Very much appreciate that. And Councilmember Barton, anything to report this evening, ma'am?
I would like to congratulate Dawn on her promotion to within the women's movement in San Luis Obispo. I just read about this right before the meeting started, and I know I'm stumbling over my words and I don't have the position right. Maybe you can help me out here, Dawn. But I'm very proud for you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Barton. And it's co-executive, it's a long title, co-executive director of Women's March San Luis Obispo. And I will still be doing all of the other things that I do, no other changes in employment. It's just an add-on that we're very excited about. So thank you for that recognition.
And congratulations to you, Councilmember Addis. We appreciate your active work in our county and our community. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and move to Councilmember Heller, sir. Anything to report for us, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, Don, it sounds like more work to me, not less, but congratulations. Co-executive director sounds like you've got more on your plate than you did before. So good for you for stepping up. Just a notification that if anyone is interested in knowing what goes in the blue trash can and what goes in your gray trash can and what goes in your green trash can, please call me. I love to talk about it. I gave a little speech at Rotary recently that was well received. I will speak to a group as small as one if they will listen to me. And it's important with respect to climate change and upcoming legislation in the state of California regarding diverting organic waste from the landfill. And along those lines, a couple of weeks ago, for those of you who have been following the county board that oversees waste management, known as the IWMA, Integrated Waste Management Authority, that I sit on. It's a fascinating board. I really enjoy sitting on the board. Big vote a couple of weeks ago. The county has withdrawn from the organization. So the 13-member board is now down to 8 members. The CSD, Cayucas, and the 7 cities will become the new IWMA, and the 5 county districts will go off and do their own thing. I'm not sure what that is yet, but they take about 25% of the waste collection customers in the county. So the remaining 75% will be in the smaller and hopefully more efficient remainders, which includes, of course, the city of Morro Bay. So that is happening, and there will probably be rate increases and more defined information about that between now and the end of this calendar year. So just want to let everybody know about that. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Heller, for being our representative on IMWA, Integrated Waste Management Authority. We appreciate your advocacy there and the work that you're doing. And thanks for updating us on what's happening. I'll just say, unfortunately, within the county and with regard to the outcome on that. So I appreciate that. And for the first time ever, Councilmember Ford, welcome. Your first report. No pressure whatsoever, but we're glad to have you this evening. Go ahead.
Why, thank you, Mayor, for that wonderful introduction. I actually do have one short announcement, and it's nothing that has not, it's been mentioned in these meetings before, because it is the city of Morro Bay is presenting the concert in the cloisters on Sunday, October 24th at 3 p.m. But I just wanted to show you this fancy little ticket that's going to be placed in businesses around our wonderful city. So, people can pick them up if they want more information about it. Of course, they can find information on our city's website as well. But just as a reminder, it will be LP and the vinyl with songs from blues to Beatles to Bowie. And they're encouraging to bring your own lawn chairs or beach blankets and, anything that you would bring to a picnic, but please no alcohol. And for any more information that you would like to get on this event, you could go to morrobayca.gov/concert in the park. And that is all I have for you this evening. Thank you.
Great. I'm ready to rock and roll. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm looking forward to that event. Thanks for bringing that forward this evening. For my report, unfortunately, for the first time in a number of years, it rarely occurs, the Drug Enforcement Administration has issued a public safety alert as of September 27th, 2021. There has been a significantly sharp increase in fake prescription pills containing fentanyl and methamphetamine. And there have been a number of cases in San Luis Obispo County as well. So this isn't something that San Luis Obispo County is escaping. The DEA warns that international and domestic criminal drug networks are flooding the United States with lethal, and I say lethal, counterfeit pills. The pills contain fentanyl, which is a narcotic-like drug similar to morphine, but 100 to 200 times the potency of morphine. And also, in many instances, also methamphetamine in very high doses. These are international domestic drug rings that are mass producing fake pills, and they are very difficult to tell the difference between the actual prescription drug and the fake product itself. Most of the tablets that are being manufactured illicitly and brought into the United States are coming from Mexico. And the majority of the fentanyl has been traced to sources in China. The drugs look similar to prescribed painkillers like Vicodin, oxycodone, OxyContin, and drugs like that. And again, I've seen on the DEA website pictures of the actual tablets, and they're very hard, if at all possible, to distinguish from the prescription drug itself. The issue of concern is that in a recent study done by the DEA, 2 out of 5 sampled drug products contained lethal doses for 75 to 80% of the population. In other words, 40% of the products that they analyzed would have killed with a single tablet about 75% of average U.S. citizens, if you will. This is a significant issue of concern for not only, again, our country, our state, but also we have data for San Luis Obispo County. I won't share that data, but it is happening here as well. The real concern is that these are illicitly being obtained not only from street criminals that are selling drugs on the street, but also being sold through the internet or online. And I'll just mention a couple of vehicles for that. TikTok has been a common place where you can buy that. Facebook has been one of the common sites, and Instagram. And I'm not trying to point fingers at any one social media company, but these are some of the common sites. There was a death about 4 months ago in San Luis Obispo County. A 17-year-old high school student had dental work done, was having dental pain, went out on the street, and not on the street, but I should say through, I believe it was TikTok, purchased a number of tablets, and after taking or ingesting just one dose, died from an overdose of fentanyl. So this is significant, and rarely does the DEA issue a public safety alert. They've only issued 3 in the last 10 years. And the statistics are rising so rapidly, and the concern is so great. I just want to make a plea out there to our parents of kids or grandkids, folks who may be using drugs and potentially run out of prescribed opiate drugs or prescription painkillers. Do not go online. Do not buy from anybody on the street because of the lethality associated with many of the products that are out there and for sale. And so it's alarming. There'll be more to follow on this, and there may be further action that the DEA will be taking. They try to shut down these online sellers, but as soon as they shut one down, 10 more rise up. And so it's a very significant concern. Parents, watch your kids very carefully in terms of their use of social media because it's out there, it's available, and it's life-threatening. So thank you for that. And with that, I'll turn it over to our esteemed city manager, Mr. Collins, your report.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, and community members. Just 3 quick updates. Just want to let folks know we did have a forum on the Morro Bay Power Plant exhaust stacks, or stacks for short, sort of the current condition and potential uses moving forward. The recording of that forum, as well as the PowerPoint presentation, are available on the city's front page website under Hot Topics. We are also taking the results of the parking study to all of the advisory boards, and I think all 3 of the boards that are relevant to this discussion have already reviewed it, and likely going to city council in late October, early November. And the city council will be hosting a goals workshop tomorrow, Wednesday, September 29th at 4 p.m. So you can find out more information on the city's website about that as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Scott, for that update. Appreciate that very much. With that, we do have a presentation this evening. Erica Crawford, the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber, is with us tonight to give us her quarterly update on Chamber activities. Erica, we'll promote you to the panel and welcome you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, if that's okay.
Sure.
Hopefully this will work. You can all see this?
Yes.
Might be able to make this look a little bit better. Let's see. Better, yeah?
Yes, much better.
Great. So thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I'm Erica. I'm the CEO of the Morro Bay Chamber of Commerce. I'm delighted to be here providing an economic development status report for the months of July through September. I'll try very hard to not talk too quickly, but we have a lot to update. So I always like to start with just a brief reminder of who we are. The Chamber is a 501c6 nonprofit corporation. We're run by a 12-member board of directors. They're elected by the membership. We have an election going out actually tomorrow. The board, and that goes to the membership. The board sets strategic direction and carries out fiduciary duties for the organization. We are also informed by an 11-member governmental affairs committee, a 5-member ambassador committee, and various task forces. Our chamber staff today numbers 3. I'm full-time. I have a part-time membership director, and I have 1 person on staff who helps me with special projects. We are, again, an independent entity. We exist in service of our members with a mission to catalyze economic growth and opportunity, to convene community leaders, and champion a strong community. Our economic development contract with the City of Morro Bay is defined by a specific scope of services that we deliver on, and that's delivered with chamber board approval at the council's pleasure and in close coordination with the city staff. In that scope, it's kind of divided into 3 header sections. So this is sort of our story arc for today. I'm going to take you through each of these sections of the economic development scope and give you a step-by-step report of where we are with all of it. So we'll start with designated proactive representation. I call this economic development work. This is a large majority of my time. I'm your contract liaison, so this is my work. I meet weekly with the city manager, Scott Collins, bi-weekly with both Scott Collins and our community development director, Scott Graham. We discuss projects that are in the pipeline, strategy, policy relative to economic development. This may cover land use, zoning, housing. We talk about partnerships with other economic development entities or even city economic development management structures. And then we always leave with action items. So I'll leave with a call. It could be as small as a call list to check in on an item, or it could be a research matter to come back. I am also a representative on the development review team, which is a city group they meet weekly. I make it 2 to 3 times a month. I have a standing conflict with the board meeting. It's been a pleasure to get to know the staff at Public Works and Community Development, Building Planning, Fire, Harbor attends. The purpose of this group is to review sort of submitted projects, things that are already there. And my role in the group is to sort of ask probing questions relative to timeline and to applicant-city relationships. So I'll often ask, is this an applicant issue that's holding things up or a city issue, and try and get in there and see if I can make things move efficiently. which they do anyway. Everybody's very conscientious, but time and again, I'll get a little nudge and make a phone call. And we also, I'm a member of the Practitioners Network, which is with REACH. I have a slide for that, so we'll go into detail there. But I'm on a business case micro team, and that group is linked with the Governor's Office of Business called GoBiz at the state level. And I'm also a member of the Cal Poly LEDC along with City Manager Collins. So the Practitioners Network is a group that's kind of housed under REACH. We have created a micro team. I've put REACH's logo beneath the GoBiz logo on purpose to kind of invite everyone to think of this as a funnel. Should sound familiar. It's a bit like how tourism is organized. Visit USA, we'll bring people to the country. Visit California, we'll bring people down to California, and then it'll go so on and so forth through the regional DMO, visit SlowCal, and then visit Morro Bay eventually. So we're kind of looking at that model. What we need is a marketing piece. What we've discovered with our relationship with GoBiz is that our region is competitive. We're looking at places like Sacramento in the Bay Area. Requests for information, proposals are coming through, and we're competitive. But at times we just need to get a little bit cleaner on how we're presenting and how we're trying to recruit business to our region. So this micro team, working with people from Santa Maria, San Luis Obispo, and other areas in our region, we'll be creating a regional overview, looking at key industries, both those that are targeted for growth and industries that are existing in our communities now. We're looking at workforce and talent. Often these RFIs will come in and say we need 90 or 900 employees, so we need to be able to talk about our workforce pipeline and the talent that exists in our region. We're looking at assets, including our regional airport, utilities, broadband, financing, telling success stories of incentives in various communities that may have secured an investment in that community. Venture capital activity. This is where relationships with the SBDC and Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship through Cal Poly is critical. We'll be leveraging our relationship with tourism partners for data on quality of life. And then our communities, and this is where Morro Bay's economic development strategy really comes into play. So we'll go into this next section of tactical execution of economic development strategy and just ask, so what's our strategy? What is Morro Bay's ED strategy? At the ground level, the Chamber created the Roadmap to Success, which is on-the-ground business assistance. We're working with both existing businesses and those looking to invest in our community when they're coming to concerns with us about financing. This was critical during COVID for grants and EIDL and SBA programs. Marketing assistance, understanding how the region is being marketed. Permitting, if we need to do any handholding to move people through the process, we're there for that. Workforce, what percentage of our high school kids are going where and what's going on with Cuesta and how's Cal Poly engaged in our community. We have had some engagement on construction impact mitigation specific to the pipeline conveyance project over on Quintana. So we've been assisting businesses with signage or, kind of liaison with that project team. And site selection assistance. This is if a business is less than satisfied with the amount of foot traffic they're getting or the size of their current location, we have the relationships with property owners and commercial real estate brokers to be able to sort of suggest or evaluate maybe another part of town, a different economic center for them to look at relocating to. Another piece of our strategy is incremental development and measured revitalization. So this work includes contacting project proposers and tracking project progress. So I'll jump into city team meetings with applicants. They can be very complicated projects, often on the waterfront, and trying very hard to map pathways to yes, but also knowing when the answer is no up front. If there's a hard no, investment wants certainty, so we want to make sure that we're being upfront. So this is all of our work engaged on permanent processing. As the council will recall, we submitted some work on that in November of last year. Another piece of our strategy is to support but not lead catalyst site development. We see this as having the potential for exponential economic impact, certainly fiscal impact for the city. This can include convening developers and project proposers, sometimes with city staff and sometimes external to city staff, so that they can get peer-to-peer support on strategy, moving through complicated pathways through planning commission to city council to coastal commission. And we're following leads that are generated within the REACH practitioners network and the LEDC. being prepared to answer those RFIs. Not only sometimes can employee needs be challenging, but also space needs. Some of these RFIs are coming in and they need hundreds of acres of space, and Morro Bay isn't really competitive for that. But what we are learning through this process is we're gleaning knowledge about emerging industries in the region and what industries are looking to invest in our area. Of specific interest for us is renewable energy and clean tech. It feels like a good match for our community. But I think we're kind of guided by this, know who we are, pursue what we want, and have strong relationships. So we know that tourism-related industries drive our economy. We want businesses that will grow TOT and sales tax. That can be new businesses or expanding businesses. And we also are very interested in increasing the tenure of small business occupancy in each of our economic centers. Are we still on month-to-month leases, or are we moving into 2 to 3 year leases? How are we anchoring these businesses for success in our centers? For the pursue what we want, Morro Bay is being talked quite a lot about becoming or having the potential to be a renewable energy hub for the region. We also want to maintain our commercial fishing and maritime heritage and our small town character here. And having strong relationships, this is the key to all of it. I think economic development, in order to be successful in Morro Bay, must be delivered, should be delivered deeply rooted in the community. So not only am I talking to builders and architects, planning consultants and real estate brokers, but I'm also talking to animal welfare groups and historical preservation groups, advocates for open space, change agents for social equity, faith-based organizations, youth career counselors, and educators. The purpose of economic development is to move everyone up a rung on a ladder, or to get them on the ladder to start. Part of what we do is this sort of outreach and convening groups together. So the Rotary has invited us again to sort of take over their programming for October. I think in Rotary World, it's Economic Development Month. So I'll be presenting economic development progress and chamber advocacy, which stands apart from our economic development work. And we're inviting Michael Wambolt, he's the new executive director for Visit Morro Bay. Our relationship is strong, very collaborative. We are co-housed at 695 Harbor, and we are working really, really well together. And then we'll have another program announced at the end of October. That economic development, that roadmap to success in action, I thought it would be nice to show the community a few success stories. I'm not saying that I had a hand in all of this happening, but certainly very proud of these businesses coming into our community. On the left is a young female business owner with her mom. They're Morro Bay residents. It's called Gaia's Garden. Of course, Scout Coffee Company is a San Luis Obispo-based business with multiple locations who are locating or housing their headquarters for all of their businesses down here at the Bank of America site, right smack in the downtown. So I'm very excited about that. There's a collective of small businesses that just opened up on Quintana. This is one of the examples of the businesses we've been coordinating with construction and even public safety in that business district. And there is another project that's going up in North Morro Bay that's very exciting, a new construction that should have some sales tax and TOT generation. I do want to remind people that, we're always looking to get people through the door and supporting our local businesses because they are our neighbors. So Lindsay Hansen, who is our membership director, has come up with a small business everyday campaign that will run from October to December. She's going to bring back Takeout Tuesday. We'll be doing shop local themed weekends and 8 days of gift giving to celebrate Hanukkah. This will be shared through social media, radio, print. Our website will host shopping lists and gift ideas. And we're going to theme them on fashion, art, adventure, pretty much everything you could possibly do here in Morro Bay. On the final note, preserving and materially enhancing Morro Bay's small town character. This is a big one for us. We are project managing a flagpole banner project in the downtown waterfront strategic plan area. That's DWSP. So that's our downtown and on the waterfront. We have now completed an inventory of all of the poles. There are lots of different poles in our community, pole types, pole sizes, and different hardware and brackets that fit them. Huge thanks to Greg Kwolek, the Public Works Director, and Matt Bishop and Josh Whitcomb from Consolidated Maintenance for their collaboration on this project. We took a nice walkabout in the downtown, and part of our observation through that effort was noticing that seagulls really, they love to just perch right on top of those really tall PG&E poles. So Greg took some action immediately and provided some mitigation effort on top of those poles to prevent some of that sanitation and maintenance issue that was occurring underneath them. So he's already seen some results there. What we've discovered also is that banner sizes are different for the downtown and the waterfront economic centers. Different size, width, streets, different heights of poles. So we're looking to standardize and codify the banner sizes for future investment in new messaging. On the left of this slide, you'll see those are the banners that we'll be deploying once they're made and once the brackets are all installed. Our next step is to identify the banners to be used. If you come down our intersections, sometimes you'll notice there's maybe one pole or there are two poles. And sometimes at intersections there are four poles. So we need to kind of have a pattern so that the way we are decorating our community looks consistent and intentional. So Josh Whitcomb has been instrumental in that from Consolidated Maintenance. He's had a vision to do this for quite some time, so it's been great to work with him. We are considering hanging existing banners that are being stored at the city maintenance yard. I did a literal deep dive in that storage shed on Monday with Josh and discovered that there are quite a few banners there and some that maybe could be used, especially for Christmas, just to get something up for this year. So we're looking at that. Another piece of our work in scope is to do some bid feasibility. Just wanted to update the council that we are starting our research on that. I look forward to having a more robust update on actual action steps in our next quarterly report. We've gotten a great lead from Downtown San Luis Obispo, Downtown Slow Organization, Bettina Swigger. So I'm going to follow that out. And I'll just end here. It's not related to ED, but we're having a mixer, and it's outside, and we're collaborating with the Atascadero Chamber of Commerce. There's plenty of space. It's a new garden area. All the food and drink servers will be wearing masks. There will be masks and hand sanitizer available. So if members of the business community would like to join us, and it's on October 20th at 5:30, and that's a mix and mingle with the Atascadero Chamber. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you for letting me run a little bit long. I don't think we've been here for a while, so I just want to make sure I got it all in there. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Erica, thank you so much. I'm always amazed at, given the fact that I know that the chamber's been challenged with staffing secondary to the COVID pandemic, and you've had some reductions, but I'm always amazed at the amount of work that your leadership accomplishes. And we're proud to be in partnership with the chamber. Your representation of our businesses is not only unique, but outstanding in your advocacy for a number of different sectors that I know personally I've been involved with, and with you and your staff. So we really appreciate that. When I think of you, I think about the 3 C's. You're capable, you have capacity, and you're competent. And that's what your chamber brings to our city. And I just wanted to say thanks for all that. And I very much appreciate it. Let me open it up for any council member questions. If you would just push the raise your hand button. And if you have questions for Erica, I'd be happy to call on you. Or comments, questions or comments, of course. All right, Jen, I see your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. And then thank you, Erica, for that wonderful report. I think it's important for our community to understand the great work that you're doing as a chamber and you're doing as a leader of that chamber. And our businesses, when I talk to other business owners, it's very apparent that they realize that you do bring such a great value to our city. And we've noticed the hard work that you do. So thank you so much. I don't have any questions at the time because I feel it was a great report. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Addis, please.
Well, I'll just chime in with the accolades, but I also just want to say thank you for the chamber mixers, because we got to go not to the last one, but the one before, and it was incredibly fun. Everybody there was incredibly nice, and it was wonderful to be outside and get to talk to folks from the local community. And I would say they're very popular. So I appreciate that you're going to continue those and that you're continuing those in a safe way during COVID.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Any other comments or questions? Seeing no hands. Erica, thank you so much. Please extend our thanks to your board. I know you're having elections, but your existing board and your subcommittees have done some great work. So thank them on the part of the city from us. We appreciate their work and their advocacy for our businesses in the community.
Thank you, Mayor Hudding. And thank you for all the kind words. I would not have gotten through this year without the volunteers that I have. That's boards and committees and everything else. So this is not a one-woman show by any stretch. This is a true team effort, and they're all business leaders, and they're to be thanked. So thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. Have a great evening. Okay, that brings us to public comment. This is general public comment for items on the agenda for which you cannot stay and would like to speak to now, or for anything else regarding the city that you'd like to speak to. Information regarding accessing public comment is now on the screen. You can access it by phone and or through the web link as noted again on our screen this evening. And so this is general public comment. And Anthony, I'll go ahead and open up public comment. Do we have any public comment, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I see one hand raised, Betty Windholtz.
Okay.
Betty, I have unmuted you.
Welcome, Betty.
Thank you. This is Betty Winholtz. I find it necessary to reflect on the decision you made at your last city council meeting to push the election of a council member into June. The spirit and legality of the ordinance, I believe, were both violated in terms of the intent and the legality of what the writer of the ordinance said and intended. And I think that this is not necessarily anyone's fault because none of you were around in 2006. And so you don't have the history to understand. But in that year, there was a replacement of a city council member because a city council member moved into the mayor position. And the town, as usual, was split 50-50 on that. And they very much wanted to be able to vote on that. And at the time, our ordinance said that you could vote, you could appoint, or seems like there was a third option. And the council at the time, of which I was on, chose to appoint permanently. And so out of that disagreement, the Bartas, Nancy and John Barta, wrote an ordinance and got signatures and got it on the ballot and got it passed to say, no, the council must allow an election, that this is not up to their discretion. So in that sense, you completely missed the point when you said that, no, the primary point was to save money. No, the point was to make sure that people had a voice in who represents them. And certainly the money was secondary because it can cost more. I did see that your figures seem to me I don't know if inflated is the correct word, but I'm not sure that you would need a consultant to help you with managing the election and some other things. It seems to me that cost could easily have been cut by $70,000. But I guess I want to put this on the record. So should this situation happen again, the intent is that, yes, the public gets to vote for their representative. And I think regardless of the inconvenience, within 114 days, we could have had an election in January. Where it stands now, we're not going to vote for 9 months, which is not the immediate intent of the law, which was let's have an election as soon as possible. But it's been put out to 9 months. So just a little history background. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Anthony, next public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I do not see any raised hands left in the queue.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll go ahead and close public comment. And thank you, Ms. Winholtz, for the history lesson. Appreciate that very much. That brings us to our consent agenda. This is item A1 through, A9. And let me just point out in the beginning that we will first go through public comment on the consent agenda. So I'll go ahead and open up public comment. This is public comment for items on the consent agenda, A1 through A9. Public comment is now open. And Anthony, do we have any public comment?
Thank you, Mayor. I see a raised hand. Betty Windholtz has her hand raised. Betty, I am unmuting you. Go ahead.
Welcome back, Betty.
Thank you. This is Betty Windholtz again. I'd like to speak to A5 and to A6. The A5 is in relationship to the noticing of the law that I'm assuming that you will pass tonight regarding guns and gun storage. I think in the past, if there is an ordinance that's passed and it has to do with plumbing or building or things like that, then we know the contractors will be alerted to this. This is a very personal change in the way someone might be doing their household. And so it's not something that we would depend on an outside expert to tell us about, should we require that. So I'm very concerned on how the city will notice the public that there is a change here, so they're not uninformed and they can't be held accountable for ignorance of the law and then still get in trouble. So I gave you an observation of that with regard to our fencing, that's again something that happens in our yards and we don't know that we have to have permits. And so I would hope that you would do some kind of advertising and let the whole public know what the new law is. The second one, A6, I would like to speak to is regarding the WRF conservation covenant that you're making with the U.S. EPA and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. This is I think we're having disagreements on definitions, and I think it primarily comes back to the definition of what is a natural condition. And according to how I interpreted the covenant, it was as it was when you got your biological opinion. And you're interpreting it, you being the city, as it is now, which is already in a sense violated because of the the landslide and the moving of dirt and all those things that have happened, the changing of the landscape. And so because of that disagreement, I'd like to know if you have consulted with U.S. EPA and Fish and Wildlife, and if they have made a statement to you, or if you will, regarding the interpretation of the definition of natural condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty, for that. Appreciate that. And did respond to your email. Hopefully you got that as well. Thanks for sending that over. Anthony, next public comment.
Thank you, Mayor Heading. At this time, I do not see any raised hands left in the queue.
Okay, I'll go ahead and pull my camera on here. Go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to council. I'll go ahead and pull A5 and 6 and just ask that those questions that Ms. Windholtz raised be answered when we get there. And then this would be for approval. I'll take a motion for the remainder. Or are there any other items you'd like to pull, folks? Let me ask you that first. Any other items to pull? If not,
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Councilmember Ford.
Yes. Is this where I ask for us to pull, or I do not want to vote for items A1, A2, and A3.
Right.
So how do we go about that?
So I'm going to take those separately, and you can abstain if that's your preference. Yeah, and I totally understand why. I think your explanation is because you weren't here.
Correct. Yes.
Correct. So if there's no others to pull, folks, I'd like to take A1 through A3 first. Take a motion for approval of those so that we can record the appropriate votes. If there is a motion to approve A1 through A3.
I'll move to approve A1 through A3.
Okay, got a motion by Councilmember Addis, second, yeah. Got it, by Councilmember Barton for approval of A1 through A3. And then we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote on those, please.
Councilmember Addis?
Yes.
Councilmember Barton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ford?
Abstain.
Councilmember Heller?
Yes.
And Mayor Heading?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0-1. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. And now, since no other items were pulled, we'll go ahead and take a motion to approve A4, A7, 8, and 9.
I'll move to approve A4, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Addis to approve A4, A7, A8, and A9. Second by Councilmember Heller. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Addis?
Yes.
Councilmember Barton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ford?
Yes.
Councilmember Heller?
Yes.
And Mayor Heading?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and I pulled A5 to ask Chief Cox if I think Ms. Windholtz raises an excellent question about how that's going to be communicated. So Chief Cox, could you perhaps assist us with the communication plan for that?
Yes, good evening,
That's
Mayor.
approved, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. There are several notification methods that we use here in the police department. Again, our goal would be to notify our community residents, because this, as a local ordinance, would apply to the residents of Morro Bay. One of the best methods that we've seen is including an insert or a flyer in the mailing to our utility mailing to our local residents. That's one of the most effective methods to reach all of the community members that are registered here in the city of Morro Bay. That does have a slight cost to it, which is something that we would have to work out. We also use several social media platforms, including Facebook, our PD websites, the Nextdoor app, our Neighborhood Watch group, and several community and civic groups to get that information out to a wide array of people within our community. We would also work with several of our local print media here in Morro Bay and the Tribune, as an example, and even send the information to the local TV correspondent in KSBY to help get that message out to all of those people that we can reach. I will let, hopefully, maybe our city attorney speak to the legal requirement for notification. I will point out that the speaker mentioned ignorance of the law, and I'd just like to put out that the law changes daily, and there are many things that come out in the law on a regular and consistent basis that there is no notification for. It becomes incumbent upon people to learn and understand what is required of them, and in something like this related to a gun issue, a responsible gun owner's responsibility is to learn how the law applies to them in all applications. So I will let our city attorney speak to what maybe a legal requirement for notification might be. But as far as for the PD and getting that notification out, we would use all of those available means to make sure we could notify as many people as possible.
Thank you, Chief. Chris, did you have any follow-up comment?
Sure. Briefly, what the Chief Cox has described as the city perhaps doing some outreach effort to let folks know about this new law, if it is approved by council, that's going above and beyond legal requirements. The city does not have any legal duty to notify residents of local changes in the law generally. There needs to be a special circumstance. So the city is entirely consistent with state law to pass this ordinance, and the city doesn't need to distribute flyers or make telephone calls or let folks know about it. When an ordinance is passed, it's passed and it's put on the books.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Just wanted to clarify that. I thought it was a good question that Ms. Windholtz had, and thank you for that. With that, I'll go ahead and move approval of A5.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Heading to approve A5, second by Councilmember Addis. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Addis?
Yes.
Councilmember Barton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ford?
Yes.
Councilmember Heller?
Yes.
And Mayor Heading?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and then I also pulled A6 to be able to address. Ms. Windholtz also sent over a number of questions that were responded to by staff. I appreciate that. But her bottom line question at the end of her public comment this evening was, did we consult EPA with regard to quote unquote the interpretation of the language? And I'll ask either Mr. Livick or whomever he might appoint to perhaps address that, or Chris. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. The Conservation Covenant was prepared with our biologist in concert with U.S. EPA and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We made sure that they had a chance to review the language and approve the language in the covenant before we brought it forward to council for your consideration. Just want to add that the work to stabilize the soil slip area is not complete, so we will not be recording that document until it is complete, and then we can provide those photographs documenting what, I'll use air quotes, natural condition is, because that included the construction, the grading, the installation of drainage swales, and then also revegetation of the site to its grassland conditions once construction is complete with that in that conservation covenant area. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. And thanks for addressing the questions earlier that were sent via email. I appreciate that as well. With that, I'll go ahead and move approval of A6.
I'll second.
Motion by Mayor Heading to approve item A6, second by Councilmember Addis. Further questions or comments?
I have a question, Mayor, if I might.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Heller.
Sure. So, I don't remember this requirement when we were first going through the process of getting this loan. Is this something new, or is this something that has just been lagging for a while? It's mentioned as a condition of the loan funding, but we've been collecting millions of dollars from WIFIA for quite some time now. So I wonder if someone could explain that to me.
Sure. As part of the federal process, U.S. EPA consults with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife because of the potential impact to endangered species. As a condition of that, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service prepared their biological opinion, which was attached. And as part of that biological opinion, we were to record a conservation covenant over 19.5 acres of the site that isn't going to be used for the active WRF facility. That was to be recorded within 12 months of commencing grading operations. It has been greater than 12 months, but we really can't record that until that work is complete, and we faced several delays and the soil slip issue. So we're continuing to work with EPA and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, keeping them informed on what's going on, and we'll get that recorded as soon as possible. But we want to get the authorization of council for the mayor to execute it, so we're ready to record when that work is completed.
Okay, and then so early on we were talking about the city possibly doing something with those extra acres. I guess that is no longer an option. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say, that we won't be developing that area without permission of U.S. Fish and Wildlife and U.S. EPA.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Heller. We do have a motion and a second for approval of this item. Any further discussion? Seeing no raised hands, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Addis?
Yes.
Councilmember Barton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ford?
Yes.
Councilmember Heller?
Yes.
And Mayor Heading?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. That brings us to our only business item this evening. This is item C1, COVID-19 update and review of Assembly Bill 361 related to teleconferencing and public meetings. I'm going to turn it over, I think, to our esteemed attorney, Mr. Newmeyer, or our city manager, with some comments by myself, I guess, also.
Yes, Mayor. If you want to give a brief update on COVID, then we can jump into sort of how the city facilities are being used in this time, and then our city attorney can talk about the new law that was passed, if you want to go in that order.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. This is just an update for the council and the community with regard to where we stand now in consideration of this item. Much of this information is available on readyslo.org, readyslo.org. The numbers in San Luis Obispo County are improving with regard to the case rate per 100,000. Our ICU beds are adequate. We have 4 patients with COVID in ICU, 1,052 current active cases, 324 deaths, and 31 total in the hospital, 4 of those again in the ICU. The Delta variant continues to be prevalent in California as a whole. In June, the Delta variant represented about 53% of all new cases of COVID. In July, it represented 83%. In August, it represented 98%, and in September, almost 100% of new cases were the Delta variant or another variant similar to that. In San Luis Obispo County, since June the 15th of this year, about 77% of new cases, or 70% of all cases, I should say, occurred in unvaccinated individuals. 86% of hospitalizations since June in this county occurred in unvaccinated individuals, and 79% of the individuals that unfortunately passed away were unvaccinated. Our case rate is declining. However, the period during which it has declined is not significant enough now to be statistically significant. Our case rate per 100,000 population in August, on August the 30th, was 57 per 100,000. On September the 6th, it was down to 39. And on the 21st of this month, September, we had a total case rate of 24 per 100,000. To give you a perspective, from March through July of this year, our case rate was down to 1.5 per 100,000, and we currently stand at about 24 per 100,000. So still fairly significant, but fortunately moving in the right direction. In our county, for individuals 12 and older, 64% of our population is fully vaccinated. 71% is partially, that's 1 of 2 doses, partially vaccinated. And about 29%, unfortunately, of individuals are totally unvaccinated, 12 years or older. Doesn't include those young kids from 5 to age 12. I will let you know that Morro Bay has opened up a testing site, as you see in the staff report. I think Mr. Collins will be making mention of that. Very briefly, there's a lot of confusion around booster doses. Right now, the only booster dose approved is for the Pfizer vaccine. That has been approved through the FDA. They're currently working on a booster dose approval for both the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and the Moderna vaccine as well. The third doses for COVID-19 vaccines are recommended for individuals, and have been for a number of months, who are severely immunocompromised, such as having conditions associated with things like cancer, significant congestive heart failure, significant diabetes, etc. Most recently, third doses have been approved for a number of different age groups. This again is just for the Pfizer vaccine. For individuals age 65 or older who reside in a long-term care facility and or have secondary conditions such as the ones that I mentioned previously are available or to receive a booster dose. For individuals aged 50 to 64 with underlying medical conditions who are at increased risk of what we call social inequities are available to receive the booster injection. And for individuals aged 18 through 64 with a long list of serious underlying medical conditions, which I suggest you go to the website to find those, folks in that group will be eligible for the booster dose as well. So the issue is that the CDC has determined that after a period of about 6 to 8 months, that the effectiveness of the vaccine diminished, I won't say fairly significantly, but significantly enough such that a booster dose improved a reduction in deaths and hospitalizations associated with COVID-19 for those individuals in the categories that I mentioned that did receive the booster doses. So my summary is we continue to have mask mandates, as you know, through the county. We continue to have recommendations for social distancing, mask mandates primarily for indoor activities. It's suggested that if you're congregating with large groups, even outdoors, that you consider wearing a mask as well and continue to follow adequate social distancing protocols. In my opinion, COVID-19 is not gone away in San Luis Obispo County, although the rates are improving. Our vaccination rate with regard to unvaccinated individuals is still significantly high enough for age 12 and older that there's significant exposure risk for the general population, and that there is still significant risk of significant disease for unvaccinated individuals, especially given the prevalence of the Delta variant. So thanks, Scott. That just is kind of a summary of the data that's out there right now, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. So just quickly to reiterate, based on what the Mayor said, we do have testing in Morro Bay at the Vets Hall, and I'm pulling up the information as we speak. As of now, tests are available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., closed from 11 to 12 and 4 to 5 p.m. This information is available on readyslow.org. We may modify the hours on Monday just to make sure we don't have overlap with our Monday night dinners. So that Monday day may change, but otherwise available Monday through Friday. In addition to what was stated, the city facilities have been reopened in some cases in modified state. Police and fire are open standard hours, the community center 9 to 4, and then City Hall and the Public Works and Planning Building from 8 to 12 Monday through Thursday and closed on Friday. In addition, we have spoken several times, mainly at the start of council meetings in the past several months, about hopes of getting back into person council meetings and advisory board meetings. But there has been obviously some hiccups with COVID-19 and the resurgence with the Delta variants. In the meantime, we have been working with AGP to establish the ability to provide hybrid meetings, and we are very thankful and grateful for their efforts to be able to pull that off from a technical standpoint. Now we're sort of in the position of waiting out this current surge. But the city attorney has an update, which is spelled out in the staff report, about an assembly bill that was passed by both chambers and signed by the governor, I believe, late last week, that relates to the ability to continue providing or using teleconferencing for public meetings. I'll let Chris go into that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. So the governor back in March of 2020 started issuing a series of what have been called Brown Act orders, and there's multiple ones. And essentially what they did for the last 18 months is they allowed cities during the COVID-19 pandemic to both comply with the Brown Act and also have teleconferencing for their council meetings, because the Brown Act prior to COVID-19 had very strict requirements for teleconferencing meetings. The Brown Act orders, the last one, the most recent one, is set to expire at the end of this month. And rather than issuing another executive order, the legislature and the governor have now codified teleconferencing for COVID-19. It's now in the government code. So rather than an executive order being issued under emergency powers, the government code's now been amended. And it now says that starting October 1st, if there is a proclaimed state of emergency and state or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing, then basically the same conditions that have existed for the last 18 months for teleconferencing can continue. It does add a few more requirements. For example, for the council meetings, there needs to be the ability to call in or Zoom in, somehow teleconference public comment. Some agencies weren't doing that. Morro Bay has always done that. So Morro Bay has already been complying with everything that the new government code requirements have. And so if those two conditions are met, we're still in a state of emergency declared by the governor, and there's, at a minimum, recommendations for social distancing. Morro Bay and all agencies in the state can continue doing teleconferencing as it has been doing. However, there's also a new requirement that no less than 30 days after that first meeting, so 30 days if council does this the first meeting in October, 30 days after that, council needs to make some findings that they've reconsidered the circumstances of the state of the emergency, and that either the state of emergency continues to directly impact ability of members to meet safely in person, or state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. So what this adds up to is that instead of having executive orders, we now have the government code, the state government code amended to allow during the pandemic, when social distancing is recommended and there's a state of emergency, for teleconferencing to continue. That's at the discretion of the council, and I'm just reporting on what the new law, AB Assembly Bill 361, has now done. And it was effective immediately. It was an urgency measure, so it is now the law of the land.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Let me go ahead and open it up for council questions of either myself or Mr. Collins or for Mr. Newmeyer. Any questions on the law changes? Councilmember Addis, yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have two questions. One is, how does this affect advisory boards? And then the other is, just in layperson's terms, what's the time frame? Like, if we made a decision tonight, what does that mean for the future? Is it meeting by meeting, month by month?
Two really good questions. I can take those, Scott, if you want me to. So in regards to advisory boards or other Brown Act bodies in the city, most city attorneys have concluded that the city council, if they go ahead and do the renewal, if you will, after 30 days have passed, that should apply to all Brown Act bodies in the city. So it would be at the discretion of the city council. If they continue meeting this way, it would flow down to the other Brown Act bodies. And as for noticing or what council has to do, council doesn't need to take any action tonight to use the government code provisions of AB 361 at the next October meeting. The first time council needs to take any action is within 30 days of the first meeting held. There needs to be a resolution or findings made that basically the emergency is continuing, and that that the council concludes that for public health reasons, it's better not to meet in person, or there's still recommendations for social distancing. So in short, council doesn't need to take any action tonight on this. Council would need to take action within 30 days of the first meeting held under this new government code, because tonight's meeting is being held pursuant to the executive orders.
But once council decides, is it like, say it wasn't renewed, do you just come back the next meeting in person? Or, I mean, 30 days is basically 2 meetings. So if we decided on the first Tuesday we're not going to renew, we would have it on the second, an in-person meeting, the very next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Great questions. Other questions? Seeing no hands raised, okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment. This is public comment for item C1 on the agenda this evening. Public comment is now open for item C1. And Anthony, do we have public comment, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I do not see any raised hands in the queue.
Okay, I'll go ahead, close public comment on item C1, bring it back to council. This is a receive and file for information only tonight. Unless there are further questions of staff, we will complete this item. No further questions. Great. Okay. Thank you again, Chris, for that excellent legal summary. And Scott, thanks for the information in the staff report. We appreciate it greatly. And we'll consider this at the appropriate time, most likely coming up in the near future. So with that, we have a short agenda this evening. I don't know how we got away with that, but we did. And that brings us to council declaration of future agenda items. Looking for any hands, any agenda items to consider. I see Councilmember Heller. I see that hand in the upper right corner, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. So there are a couple of things that might come up as a result of the goals workshop tomorrow, but I wanted to bring up a couple that I think are important that we need to think about agendizing. And one has to do with our climate action plan. And I would like to bring it forward as soon as feasible so that the entire council understands what it is and what it is not, so that we can make a discussion and make some assessments. And I'm wondering if there's support amongst the rest of the council for that.
Yeah, I'm supporting the concept, trying to understand a little bit more with regard to specificity on, would you want to wait and see what happens tomorrow evening, or is there a specific staff report that you'd like information on that you'd like to have brought back as soon as possible?
Well, my concern about waiting about the goals meeting is that somehow this won't make the top 5 list or whatever, and it'll get pushed off and be 6 months before we talk about it. I would like at the very least to bring the climate action plan forward so that all the council members understand what it is. Whether or not it becomes a top item out of the goals session or not.
Okay, so I'm just thinking out loud with you, Councilmember Heller, not trying to be difficult. If it wasn't a priority item tomorrow evening via goal setting, should we be agendizing it immediately ahead of those items that may well be goal items, would be my first concern. My sense is perhaps, and I don't want to give a preview of any thoughts for tomorrow evening, but my sense is it's probably going to rise up in the minds of many. But Scott, do you have anything to add to the climate action plan specifically?
No, I think I agree with that sentiment that it seems like it's becoming more of a pressing issue and everywhere we look. So I would expect it would be a major point of discussion tomorrow during the goals. So that's just my input on that.
Okay. And Councilmember Addis, I think you have a comment. Please, I'll take that.
Well, I want to support Councilmember Heller in bringing this forward, and I've had a couple discussions with staff. I do think there's movement at the county level, hopefully, around updating climate action plans. I think I'm hoping that's in our future. I do know we had a presentation not too long after Councilmember Heller and I got on to council, and I wonder if a way to thread this needle would be to bring that presentation back. I think it was very short, maybe, 8 or 10 slides, and it was just to kind of give us a broad overview. But then since then, we've had changes. We have 2 new council members who maybe haven't heard the current climate action plan, and so even if it didn't become a goal, just having access to that information and thinking about how whatever goals we do end up with can interweave with the plan that we do have. So maybe instead of a lot of work. It could just be bringing that presentation back if it doesn't become a goal.
So, I was just looking for specificity. I'm right with you both in your feelings with regard to the importance of this and the import to bring it back, and I'm willing to support that with that specificity being defined. So that's 3 head nods there. That's all it takes. I see a smile, and it looks like another head nod. So, Councilmember Heller, we're going to do it.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the support. And Councilmember Addis, I think that's a good suggestion. And I'd forgotten about that slide presentation.
So did I.
That's a good way to do it. So thank you for that. So I have one other one I'd like to suggest.
Yes, go ahead.
This is a hot potato. Some people know about it, some people don't. And I know Scott Graham knows about SB 9, and I'm sure that his department is trying to sort all of that out right now. But I think the sooner we can get something in front of the public that kind of explains the potential impact of SB 9 on the city of Morro Bay, the better. So Scott, are you, I see your black square there. Do you have any comments about that, Scott Graham?
I've attended a couple of recent seminars on SB 9, along with the other jurisdictions in the county where I'm getting up to speed, but definitely we could agendize an item and bring it forward to kind of go over the highlights of it for sure.
I would support that too, because I do think that's a hot potato item. I'm hearing it from my colleagues or peers, lots of discussion, and even in the community. So I'm nodding my head. I see Councilmember Addis nodding her head. Councilmember Ford is nodding her head, and I'm trying to look for, if I can find her, Councilmember Barton.
Could we just say out loud what SB 9 is?
Yeah,
I'm in support, but could we just say what it is?
I just thought for the viewing public, Senate Bill 9 is a radical change to state zoning law where it essentially preempts a lot of local control over single-family housing zoning and requires in certain circumstances for a city to allow more housing on what is otherwise a single-family home lot. But there's a lot of details, a lot of nuance, and it certainly is a complicated Senate bill. But essentially, it upzones automatically certain areas in the city to allow more housing.
Right. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Still, it looks like we have support for further information regarding AB 9 to come back. Thank you, Councilmember Heller. Were there any other future agenda items?
Is all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, you got them all tonight.
Out there.
Thanks. Looking for hands, seeing no other hands. Okay, thank you all for a short but good meeting. Appreciate it very much. The next meeting of the Morro Bay City Council will be held Wednesday, tomorrow, September 29th, 2021 at 4 p.m. This is a special meeting. It is our goals meeting to take goals input and to formulate goals. Very important for the community, hoping that we'll get good attendance tomorrow evening. Again, that's September 29th, tomorrow, Wednesday, 4 p.m. sharp. And we will see you there. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Be safe and be well.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.